Good afternoon. My name is Mark Langsfeld. With me is Becky Masters from Delta Dental of Washington. So thanks for joining us, where we're going to talk about, truth be told, how Delta Dental of Washington drills into call driver analysis with AI-powered voice analytics. I'm going to just do a little quick intro about me, and then obviously VoiceBase, and then we're going to hand this off to Becky, and she's going to walk us through her journey at Delta. So I head up product for VoiceBase. I joined the company last year. Awesome company. And I've been an expert in unstructured data analytics now for about 15 years. And any questions you have after this presentation, feel free to ping me at mark@voicebase.com. Happy to get back to you. So with VoiceBase, we help people bring vision to voice. And what we mean by that is that we take your call recordings. So yes, this call may be recorded for quality assurance purposes. Those recordings, and enable you to analyze those in addition to email, text, and chat, which is a new capability we just announced yesterday at the show, and allow you to create customer 360 views. And so it's a big win because we're basically democratizing calls, which have typically been hostage of the contact center, and making those freely available to the entire enterprise. So big win. This allows you to become more data-driven, and obviously more customer-centric. And so all the things that you understand what customers want, why they do what they do, their opinions, it's a rich, untapped resource in voice. So our tech stack, just to the left, we have highly accurate voice or speech-to-text transcription. On top of that, we provide natural language processing, where we can do keywords extraction, topic analysis, to help you understand what is happening on your calls. Because calls typically have sensitive information, like credit cards and other PII information, we have redaction capabilities to strike all that out of your calls, so you're in a more secure state. Conversation metrics allow you to understand how people are speaking. Are they speaking fast? Are they over-talking? Over-talking is when me as an agent interrupts the caller. A lot of times that's usually a sign of some frustration, some arguing, things like that take place. So a lot to learn in conversation metrics. And then we have call categories, which allows you to create rules to understand, is it a billing question? Is it a claims issue? Those types of rules that help you understand and track reason codes. And then we have a really powerful AI capability in predictions. So when you load up the system with a bunch of trained data, we then create an algorithm and then can score calls on likelihood to cancel, likelihood to buy, an eNPS score, an e-customer sat score. So it's really powerful, allowing you to look at all of your calls instead of a sampling of phone calls and data. From a solution point of view, we've got 3 core data products: an API for application companies to build using a JSON API. For those of you who have Tableau Server or Tableau Online, we have an enterprise accelerator, which allows you to, when we provide an analytics schema, a powerful analytics schema, to render those dashboards. And we also provide you with pre-built dashboards. And a fully hosted speech analytics solution, an out-of-the-box solution called VoiceBase Online that we just announced at the show that uses embedded Tableau. Use cases are for service organizations, allowing you to create agent scorecards, compliance and risk dashboards, call driver analysis, and auto NPS and customer sat. For sales organizations, lead scoring, agent coaching, objection handling, how to sell more effectively. And then for marketing organizations, dashboards for campaign tracking, competitive mentions, and customer opinions. So really powerful dashboards. If you stop by our booth, we have many of these for display that you can play with. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Becky Masters, who's going to take us across her journey at Delta and share how she's leveraging voice.
All right, thanks, Mark.
Sure.
All right, so I'm here today to tell the story about Delta Dental. I'm going to share a little bit just kind of about our company, our background, so you kind of know about us, and then share our journey with voice analytics and what we plan to do with it for the future. So one second, the notes aren't showing up on the PowerPoint slide. So I don't know if you want to come up while I'm starting to do that and we can see. All right, so I have been a lifelong learner. I have always wanted to just continue to find and learn new things. After 15 years of doing HR, I was a compensation and benefits professional. This past year, I switched and actually joined our IT department and working for our CIO and managing, helping to figure out how are we going to leverage technology better in order for our business to operate. And also just to share some fun tidbit about myself, the same time that I was switching my career, I also picked up a new hobby, woodworking. And I'm going to share a couple little pictures before we dive into the details of the presentation. So I actually went through the community college and took a class on woodworking, and I learned how to use a circular saw and built this really cool toolbox. And that was our project for the class. Since then, I watch YouTube a lot, and I follow a bunch of people on Instagram that teach you how to do things and give you ideas and examples of what to build. And so here's a couple things that I've been doing in my spare time in the last couple of years, including that middle picture is in our basement. And just by watching a YouTube video, I was able to figure out how to build a built-in bookshelf. All right, so back to the data that we're talking about today. So Delta Dental of Washington, okay. We were founded in 1954, and we were the first dental benefits company in the country. A couple of years later, in 1965, we formed with a few other companies to form the Delta Dental Plans Association to be able to provide dental benefits across the country. Today, we actually have 39 member companies in total that are able to service all 50 states within the United States. And overall, we are just dedicated to protecting people's smiles and keeping them healthy. So at Delta Dental of Washington, we are a not-for-profit, and we fulfill our mission by offering affordable, high-quality dental plans, and Tableau happens to be a customer of ours. We provide easy access through our expansive network of dental network state and nationwide. We provide lots of tools and services to make your benefits easy to use and keep your smile healthy. And our foundation provides dental services to underserved populations, programs such as the SmileMobile and ABCD program. The SmileMobile is actually a dental office on wheels and goes across the state of Washington to be able to provide dental care to folks that are uninsured. And then the ABCD program is actually a nationwide program, where we are able to connect children on Medicaid to be able to find and receive dental care throughout the United States. So in the state of Washington, this is where we're headquartered. Our headquarters is in Seattle. We also have an office in Spokane and Colville. We have about 400 employees total. For the coverage in Washington, about 50% of residents in Washington are covered by Delta Dental of Washington, which is over 2 million members. For the dentists, about 90% of dentists in Washington are in our network, which is about 4,500 dentists are in our network. So today we'll be sharing the story of our call center. So we have about 80 call center agents, and they answer about 700,000 calls per year currently. So we've really sat down, and like many companies out there, we are on a journey of digital transformation. But before we started, we really wanted to, as a company and leadership, figure out why. Are we just doing it because everyone's saying they're doing digital transformation? What's important to us, and why are we trying to move forward? And we came up with some principles as to why we are starting this journey. The first is that we've been around for 65 years, and we've been a leader. But we know, and you can look at tons of examples out there, if you don't do anything and continue to evolve, you're not always going to be able to remain in a leadership position. We know, we've been talking a lot about data the last day so far, that we need to better leverage our data in order to help define our path forward. We know we need to be more agile. If we can be more flexible as we continue to grow and evolve, we're going to be able to adapt as the market around us adapts. And customers really expect more, and we need to be able to deliver on their expectations far more than what we've ever had to do up till now. And finally, we still need to be able to run our business effectively, and we need to be able to scale as our business scales. And so we have identified digital transformation as one of our key strategic initiatives over the next few years. And as a company, we truly believe and understand that it's not just the technology alone that's not going to solve our problems, but it's really about how our employees, our mindsets, our process, and our technology are all going to work together to ultimately be able to create better value for our customers. And it's not easy. We're starting this journey now, and the people and the mindset part is way harder than the technology. But we're here today to talk about the technology piece to kind of bring it all together. Okay, so like I said before, we are a 65-year dental benefits company. And as you may guess, we've not always been on the cutting edge of technology, both due to regulations as well as mindsets. But we've spent 2019 analyzing what are our strengths as a company and where do we need to be able to evolve to be able to be successful in the future. And one of our key goals and kind of realizations is that we need to make it easier for our customers to interact with us and get answers to the questions that they have. But in order to do that, we need better data and better insights to really understand what our customers need to be able to provide them that information. So this year, in partnership with our technology group as well as all of our key business leaders across the company, we've identified that we're going to be focusing in 2020 on our contact center, as we see that we have lots of opportunities in there to help kind of evolve what we're doing and ultimately be able to provide the best possible value to our customers. So some of you might be able to relate to this. We have a lot of things in Excel that we still use on shared drives. So this is a real-life example of a sheet that we have before VoiceBase around our ways that we were able to categorize and view the reasons for calls. And so a couple things to share about this. One, our agents, when they answer a phone call, they're required to pick a reason for why the person called. And based on our current technology, they can only choose one reason. But really, there's oftentimes many reasons within a phone call that they're calling about. So they pick the one that they choose as the most important one and call it good. And this is what the report of that is. We do split it out by providers and subscribers. So providers, they're about 60% of our phone calls, and only 40% are individual members. And the categories are different, and so that is helpful to look at that. But otherwise, it's just one reason based on what the agent thought was the reason. And of course, it's helpful to know this, but it really doesn't give you any detailed information about what to do about it. And then this next slide shows actually a report that we do have built in our Tableau environment. And it shows our average handle time by month. So the main bar, the blue bar, is the talk time, green bar is the hold time, and then the yellow or the orange bar is the after call work. So those three elements together make up the total handle time within a phone call. So again, this is interesting and important because it's, for staffing purposes and other things, we know about how long a call takes, but we don't combine this with the categories of the calls, and ultimately knowing how long a call takes doesn't actually really tell you much information. I mean, it's interesting, but it doesn't really help. So we really knew that we need to be able to evolve and move forward with our data and analytics. So with that, over that 700,000 calls we have, that represents about 4 million minutes of talk time. And as Mark was saying earlier, we had that recording, all calls will be recorded for compliance purposes. We do that, and we've had those call recordings for years and years. And right now, our analysts and managers have to listen to the actual phone calls to be able to understand what happened on the calls and do anything about it. So as you can imagine, it's very time consuming, and currently our analysts and managers only listen to about 1% of our phone calls. So that's not a lot of information that's going to be helpful for us to make decisions on. And so what I'm sorry, forgot to put the 1% up. Okay, so I'm going to move to the next slide here. And so now we want to be able to make it as easy as possible for customers to get answers to questions. And we've decided that we're going to measure that achievement based on reducing talk time. So we've set a goal in 2020 to reduce our talk time by 10% company-wide. And we think in order to do that, we're going to be able to, there's a few ways that we'll be able to do it. One is, where do we have opportunity to just eliminate the phone call completely? Second, how might we divert our customers to other channels like our website that we invest millions of dollars to build out and maintain for our customers? And third, there's a lot of opportunity where we might just be able to reduce the length of the phone call. There might still be reasons that people need to call, but at least we can make it as efficient as possible, both for us and for our customers, to be able to get answers to their questions. And we really believe that voice analytics is the key to be able to providing us the right insights so that we can ultimately achieve our goal of reducing talk time. So even a few years ago, a lot of these technologies really felt out of reach to us. You know, we are not on the forefront of technology at our company, and a lot of these things just felt like we wouldn't be able to, either too expensive or too difficult to deal with. However, we also know that we can't listen to all our phone calls to be able to learn and see what's going on from our customers' point of view. And so we were very excited when we, at a Tableau event, met VoiceBase. And their product basically fit exactly what we were looking for. VoiceBase is able to take all of those call recordings, put them into their fancy engine, transcribe them, do analysis on them, and then eventually the data and results get displayed in Tableau for us to be able to then learn, figure out what we want to do now over the coming months in order to meet our goal for the future. So I'm actually going to share some our real-life dashboards of what we've built so far and kind of take you on our journey of where we are at today. All right, so this main dashboard is built within VoiceBase and Tableau, and so this shows all the calls for the time period that I have displayed here. We've always had the number of calls. That was something we at least were able to run information on, but we never had a lot of this other information. We now have the average sentiment for this set of phone calls. It does show the average handle time. The over talk time, which Mark had referenced earlier, if someone is, a customer's talking and our agent might be talking over them or vice versa. And then the percentage of silence within a phone call. And then down below here, you'll see these are our main categories of why people are calling. And you'll notice it's kind of hard to tell on this deck, but you notice that these percentages don't add up to 100. They're way more than 100, which means on most of our calls, we have more than one thing that was happening within the phone call. So it tells us individually. So you might have a phone call that has 4 of these categories within it, but that's actually really helpful to us because we never had that information before to be able to dive in. And then also, we have on top, we have work groups that we use internally, and we're able to slice and dice this data by providers and subscribers. And that's really important to us because the content of the calls for a provider call versus a subscriber call are very different, and we need to be able to look at that data differently in order to kind of find ideas for the future. Okay, so now this is a drill down where I have filtered on subscriber only, and then you'll see here I have filtered on ID cards. So in our old system where we could only classify one reason for a phone call, we had about 3% of phone calls were related to ID cards. And so we honestly thought it wasn't really kind of that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. Like, yeah, every now and then people call about ID cards, but it's cool, we won't worry about it. Now with this data, actually there's 15% of subscribers are talking about ID cards within a phone call. And so how this works is that once you've kind of filtered down your data, you're now able to dive into the actual phone call and transcript for any call that you want to see. And this has been really amazing for us. We are able to, the player separates out the caller and the agent. within the transcript. And then on the right, these are all the different ways that the call has been categorized. And you can click on those. So for instance, I can click on this, where did they mention ID cards within the phone call? As soon as I click on that, it will bring me to the section of the phone call that talks about ID cards. So I can very quickly get the gist of what the conversation was without having to listen to the whole phone call to find out where did they talk about ID cards within the phone call. And there's been a couple things that we've learned by diving into the ID card category. The one example that I chose and kind of have this example here, a person had just called and said, hey, I actually called last week to ask for an ID card, where is it? And the agent told them, we put it in the mail last week, so it's been 7 days, you should be receiving it any day. And then the customer said, great, thank you, and hung up. So it was a very quick call, but a couple things, and so as we started diving into more of these ID card calls, the same type of conversation was happening. People were calling, asking for ID cards, we were mailing them out to them. And so some insights that we've learned so far that we're gonna start taking action on. One is possible training for the agents. We actually have a mobile app and a website where you can get your ID card instantaneously, and our agents didn't mention anything to our customers about that, which to me feels like a miss, and that's something that we could do better training on for our agents. And also, I wonder, for the one example, that was actually a repeat phone call. So they've had 2 of those same exact conversations on, can I have a DID card? Yes, I can mail it to you. And how could the agent have better handled it the first time so we could have at least avoided the second call that came in about the ID cards? Another thing in looking at all these transcripts, what could we be doing better from a customer onboarding standpoint so our customers actually know you can get an ID card at all these places and you don't have to wait for it to come in the mail? There must be ways that we can partner with our sales and marketing team to figure out how might we better onboard our customers. And then also from just our website and application itself, why is it not, it should be pretty obvious of how to get an ID card when you go to the app or go to the website. And clearly, for a lot of our customers, it doesn't seem to be very clear. So how might we change the user interface within those applications to be able to get folks to the right place for ID cards? All right, so now I'm going to dive into another example. In this example, I've filtered on subscriber, and then here talking about the website. So again, on our old dashboard, the numbers were way off from what is actually happening. It was not nearly at all 30%. So our website team is so excited to be able to start getting access to this data and really knowing what's happening with these conversations. But we found a couple high-level themes as we've started to dive into stuff about the website. And the examples that we found, our agents are painstakingly walking through with our customers to give them instructions on how to log into our website, or how to reset your password on the website, or even how to find a dentist, which is like the most fundamental thing that you probably need to be doing with your dental insurance, right? Finding a dentist to go get care. And it's, especially for our agents, they have a lot of patience because they sit there time after time and explain in great detail how to do these things that really should probably be pretty easy for our customers to do that don't really need a lot of hand-holding in order to accomplish those things. So our website team is going to be working further to dive into this analysis and how might they change the whole customer experience for our members so they can, at least the very easy things, they should be able to do without calling and asking us how to do it. All right, so now this next example is one where I have filtered on providers now instead of subscribers. So I know I said this previously, about 60% of our phone calls are from provider offices and 40% are from subscribers. And these calls are a lot different in nature than the member calls. So in this example, I have filtered on, I can't even see from this screen here, claim status, thank you. So I filtered on claim status and started to dive through and look at what was happening on these phone calls. And for 12% of those calls, that's a lot for subscribers, are calling about claim status. That's okay. So and we already have known this about ourselves. We don't have any sort of self-service functionality on our website where dentist's office can check the status of a claim. You have to log into our back-end homegrown system to be able to see where a claim is. But 12% of our subscriber calls, out of 60% of our total calls, that's a lot of calls that are calling about a very basic piece of information. It's not that complicated of what the status of a claim is. We just don't have any current functionality for them to be able to access it themselves. And so our product teams that manage our internal claim system and then our website team are going to start to partner together and figure out, how easy could we start to experiment and have something like claim status to be able to be published on our website so that people can just go and access the information themselves. Okay, so now we've been talking about call drivers, but from providers and subscribers' point of view. Now I'm going to talk about emotions analysis in Tableau. So this is definitely something we've never had access to before. We have always had anecdotal feedback from agents of like, whoa, that person was really mad, or whoa, they were happy. But that's about all we had. And so this is pretty amazing, actually. We have a dashboard that we've built within Tableau that grabs emotions within a call. So in this one, the larger the green bubble, it's the more times that emotion is happening within a phone call. And we actually have, at the beginning of the calls, we have a lot of actually pretty happy people. I think the total call set was 200, so half the people were actually pretty happy at the beginning of the phone call. And this is at the end of the phone call. Pretty much everyone, when they finished the phone call, was at least happy and satisfied that they got what they needed. And what's cool about that is that our company is known for providing exceptional customer service, and we're very proud of that. And this is actually, it's kind of cool to see, yeah, people are happy with what we are providing to them, which is good, but we know we can improve upon what we do. So in this next graph, I'll show you. These were calls that were happening more in the middle of the phone call. They're not as big as the good emotions, but there's still, plenty of calls where people were either frustrated or disappointed within a phone call. And so as you can start to dive into these calls to understand what was causing them either frustration or disappointment, there's lots of different ways, but I have a couple examples that I'll show you. So these were taken from actual transcriptions of phone calls. This first one, the person is a subscriber, and they were calling because they had a very basic question that they needed an answer to, and apparently our IVR system was frustrating the heck out of him because he didn't know how to get to an agent. He just kept hitting 0 over and over and over again until he finally found someone to talk to, and that was his biggest frustration at that moment. And we do look at our IVR system that we have built to make sure that it makes sense, but there's always a balance of wanting to try to have people find the information themselves, but also not frustrating them to just, if they need to talk to a person, they need to talk to a person. So these are examples where we can take this type of feedback and look at how we've set up our IVR system and determine if we need to set them up differently to make it easier for our customers. And then the second example, this is someone calling from a provider office. And this particular office worker was very frustrated with us because we were trying to process a claim for one of their patients, and they, I guess, had sent the documentation for the claim 4 times, and we kept saying we didn't receive the documentation. And that would be very frustrating to anyone, I imagine. And then of course she then on the other end is dealing with an unhappy patient at her dental office. And this type of interaction is happening all the time. We process millions of claims, and a lot of them need further documentation for the more complicated cases to validate if the claim should be paid or not. And so we know we've always had some amount of challenge with this example, but now that we have access to this data, it actually is telling us more like, these are actual real problems that we should start prioritizing and figuring out ways to solve them. Especially because we know we're constantly getting information from dental offices, how can we make that transaction better for everyone? It will help us to be able to process claims more efficiently. It helps the provider office and also helps the patient. And the faster we can get all those things done, the more helpful it's going to be for everyone involved. All right, moving on from emotion, the next topic is about agent performance. And I know if you go to the VoiceBase booth, you can see kind of these exact examples, but we did a screenshot of one of our dashboards here. And so this is our real live information. It lists out information by agent name, how many calls they've taken, and what is the average handle time for the calls. And so this here, we're still kind of working on finalizing it, but there's all these different things within a phone call that you can score. Did they do the proper greeting? Did they verify the person based on what we require for a verification perspective? This middle one is ownership. There's a whole thing on over talk time and things like that. And we currently have 3 call QA analysts whose job it is to do this exact thing for 1% of our phone calls. So as you can imagine, with now that we've got this set up, it's 100% of our calls that we could do quality assurance on. And now the agents don't have to do all the manual stuff they were doing by listening to the entire phone call. They literally had a checklist of things to grade and mark off, a kindergarten teacher is doing a worksheet. And now they don't have to do that piece anymore, but they can now spend their time on actually diving into the data and the insights and be able to work with agents and managers better to see how might our agents be able to contribute towards the overall success of our company. And one thing we noticed is that we have a pretty low score on, for some people, on call ownership. And what call ownership means is that an agent is able to kind of take control of the call, make sure it flows through efficiently from beginning to end. And it's sometimes amusing when you start listening to some of these phone calls that someone will start talking for 10 minutes about the weather, about they're irritated, about their dentist, but it's nothing specific, and the agent kind of lets them just ramble on, which, there's always a balance there of wanting to be empathetic to your customer, but also not wanting to waste everyone's time for these long calls when you're not even actually providing value on either side. And so this is a specific statistic that we're going to start diving into further and figuring out who are the agents that do a really good job of this and who are the agents that need help with how can they take better control of the phone call and make sure that we can, of course, provide good customer service, but be able to do it in a more efficient way for everyone. Okay, so those are my examples of what we're here to show today about kind of the actual dashboards that we've been working on over the last couple months. And we're incredibly excited about the journey that we are starting on with voice analytics. A couple really awesome points for this. One, we're now able to figure out where we should be focusing our time and energy on to be able to kind of prioritize our action items for the future. Before we were having to just use just anecdotal feedback or make guesses on things, but we can actually use real data to figure out where are the true problems for us to be able to start working on them. And also, I know I've said this a couple times, but it's almost mind-boggling that we were only able to actually have time to do analysis on 1% of calls, and instantaneously it's changed from 1% to 100%, which is pretty incredible. In addition, we've been able to do this pretty quickly. We did a pilot first and then gone into production. And if our company was trying to do this on our own, we would not be capable of doing it by ourselves. We need to partner with these experts who know what they're doing and take the heavy lifting off of our own internal resources and get this up and going so then we can do the fun part of the analysis and really figure out how can we use this to our advantage. And also, it's actually really amazing, and I know Mark mentioned this at the beginning, that our calls, anything related to the call center and the calls within them, only our contact center management ever paid attention to it. No one else cared about anything that was happening there. And what's amazing is that this set of data, everyone's going to care about it. Our company is beyond excited to be able to have access to this set of data for our customer information that we just never had access to before. And what's amazing, just with Tableau, we can very easily share this with everyone who it's appropriate to have access to. And so, our executive team, customer service, our sales team, marketing team, website team, they're all going to have pieces of information in here that are going to be helpful to their teams and their products to be able to enhance. And we're all, marching towards the same goal of trying to provide, good value to our customers, but we all have kind of different responsibilities within that spectrum. And so they're really going to be, all of our departments are very excited to have access to this, to be able to use it. All right, so I'll share some final thoughts. This is definitely a journey for us. We are on the very beginning of, we are by no means an expert on this topic yet, but having good partners that are really going to be able to help us is incredible for us to be able to move forward. And based on kind of where our journey is right now and our concentration on our contact center, that this is one of the key elements of our digital transformation journey over the next 12 months. And really for our next steps, what we're going to be doing is continuing to refine the dashboards. What exactly do we want to see? What's going to be the most impactful? We'll very shortly start to generate a list of ideas that kind of prioritize them and figure out what things can we do to help us meet our overall goal of reducing that talk time by 10%. Then we'll be able to, across the company, implement these ideas and then actually be able to measure the results of them. So for instance, the ID card example, if we change some of the training for the employee or for our employees and make a couple enhancements to our digital ID cards and customer onboarding, we'll be able to quickly be able to tell, is the percentage of calls that talk about ID cards going down or not? And then we'll be able to learn from that. Maybe the ideas we had work and maybe they don't work, but we'll have access to the data very quickly to know if it's working or not, and then be able to either continue down certain paths and ideas or pivot to new ideas in order to help meet our goals. And really, hopefully next year I can come back and share that we've been kicked everything out of the park and was way beyond the 10% goal that we've set for ourselves with all the ideas that we've been able to generate from this tool. And so really, this all is tying back together that we've always known that the voice of the customer is an important part of how we are operating our business, but we had really limited access to data of what the voice really was. And this is really now going to be able to, we'll be able to share this information across our company and be able to really have meaningful input that will be able to help drive our transformation going forward. Okay, thanks so much for listening. I'm going to have Mark come back up here and make sure to fill out your survey and give good scores. And we're going to open it up now for questions and answers from anyone out there that might want to ask about our journey.